There is a highly specific physical tension that happens the moment you leave behind an environment you know and step across the threshold into a place that is completely alien to you. Historically, few felt this more acutely than the Venetian merchant Marco Polo. When Polo arrived at Khanbaliq, the sprawling capital of the 13th century Mongol Empire, he encountered an architectural scale and military power that defied medieval European expectations. We can observe this exact moment in Gary Jennings' fictionalized account of Polo's travels, The Journeyer. But that brings up a difficult problem. If you are sitting in a classroom today, miles and centuries away from the Mongol Empire, how exactly does an author ensure you feel the weight of that specific discovery? As readers, we cannot rely on imagination alone to understand a historical text. To actually reconstruct a journey, we have to actively hunt the page for undeniable physical proof. To understand how to do that, it helps to look at the Latin root words vid and vis. At their core, these roots translate simply to see. You already know these roots well. They form the foundation for modern words directly tied to our sense of sight, like video and visual. But those same ancient roots also give us the word evidence. This linguistic connection reveals exactly what literature teachers are asking you to do. Finding textual evidence means training your eyes to identify the structural data points the author constructed on the page. Take a look at this textbook page featuring the opening paragraphs of The Journeyer. If we want to understand Marco Polo's arrival, this is where we begin our investigation. Sensory details, the sights, sounds, and textures an author uses, built the physical environment. Jennings notes the arrival in the twilight of a fading day, on a broad, paved, clean avenue. He then highlights the soldiers' highly polished metal and gleaming oiled leathers. By extracting these specific physical details, the fading light contrasting with the sharp, clean gleam of military armor, the author forces us to visualize the discipline of this empire, exactly as the explorers encountered it. Once that physical environment is locked in, our investigation has to shift. We need to move from analyzing what is being seen to understanding who is doing the seeing. Look closely at the very first phrase. Polo tells us his internal baseline. To my surprise. Why? He expects these fierce Mongol soldiers to impede our way. Instead, the text reveals they execute a maneuver of unanimous precision. Tracking this juxtaposition of what Polo expects versus what actually happens provides visible evidence of his internal state. He appears not as a confident conqueror, but as an intimidated outsider caught off guard by a highly organized culture. This brings us to a conceptual challenge. If Polo is experiencing military maneuvers completely foreign to him, how does he accurately describe that threat to a reader sitting back in Europe who has never seen anything like it? Authors solve this using figurative language, similes, and metaphors. Rather than mere poetic decoration, figurative language is a deliberate tool used to map an entirely alien concept onto a familiar shape. Returning to the text, we see exactly how the soldiers surround Polo's group. Jennings writes that they formed a hollow square about our train. That specific geometric metaphor is evidence of the author building a cognitive bridge. By evoking a hollow square, the text forces us to visualize a recognizable shape to comprehend a coordinated threat closing in on the characters. This method of observation translates directly to the work you are performing in the classroom today. When you sit down with a text, the physical act of annotation is an active investigation. Your job is to pull specific, literal details from the page, the exact same way we just pulled them from Polo's arrival. Here is the unbending rule. Any conclusion you draw about a character's motives or the overarching theme of a story is invalid unless it is backed up by undeniable proof cited directly from the text. Finding that proof requires looking for the literary mechanics within the prose. Isolate the sensory details to build the world. Track the character's point of view to map their internal state, and decode the figurative language to bridge the abstract to the familiar. Sophisticated reading requires the active, forensic extraction of a story's underlying architecture. By training your eyes to see the evidence buried on the page, you bypass the simple summary and experience the shock of discovery yourself.